Hi, my name's Morgan, welcome to my channel, and in this video I'm going to be going through my 2024 intentions for the year. Now it is February, so I am a little late, but it's also Lunar New Year today, so you know, New Year can start at any point. So I've separated these into what I'm calling my reading goals, my community goals, and I also have a very loose 24 and 24 TBR. I guess I'll start with the community goals because this is the big different thing in that I am here doing this talking to the camera thing. So my first goal or intention for 2024 is to give this a proper go, whatever that means. I was thinking of putting a number on it, like make 12 videos in a year or something like that. But I think I'd rather just go by feeling. Like if at the end of the year I feel like I gave this a proper go, so I can finally either continue with it because I enjoy it or write it off as this thing that kind of lurks around in my brain rent-free. Basically find out if I actually enjoy this long term. I actually started this channel at the beginning of 2023 with the same kind of intention, and then 2023 was not the one. So we're going to try again this year and hopefully it will be a bit more successful in general and in booktube. My other big goal or intention with starting this channel is just to comment more. I have lurked on booktube for probably over a decade, yeah. I often have a thought of something to comment, but do I often post it? No. So I need to get over that. I don't know why I do that. Even the comments that I see often, like, just love this video, heart, something like that. Like, I am allowed to also just do that. Especially I watch a lot of smaller booktubers and I don't often comment, and I feel like a bit of a hypocrite at that point because I would love people to comment on these videos and I'm not doing it for the small booktubers I watch. So maybe we're all just scared of commenting, I don't know. And then my last community intention is to carry on my buddy reads and book clubs in real life. I think in general a theme for 2024 is to take solitary hobbies like reading and try to find more of a community around them. Now for the main event, I guess, which is the reading goals. So number one is to read my own books. So original, I know. Last year only 19% of what I read was from books I already owned and 58% was from the library. So I know where my problem is. Again, I'm like, should I put a number on it? I would love to read 50-50 if I could. 50% my own stuff, 50% library. Honestly, I would take a third, 33%. I think if I manage 1 in 3 books being from my own shelves, that would be quite impressive. And the general goal behind that is to reduce my own physical TBRs, like most of us. I might make a whole video about how long some of the books have been there, because sometimes I see people say, oh, I've had a book for 3 years and feel bad. And I'm like, buddy, I've had some for 15. You're doing fine. And I need to keep reminding myself I'm not just doing it for the sake of it, but because I'm excited to read those books. And also, I now have my book collection in my living room, so whenever we have people around, people will talk to me about the books, and it's really annoying when people are like, oh, what's that one like? And I'm like, I actually haven't read that one. So I would love to actually have a collection that I have read and I can talk to people about and lend out to people. That is the big why. So obviously, if I'm trying to reduce my overall physical bookshelf, then buying no books is a thing I think I'm going to try to do this year. I did buy 2 in January, but I have a few exceptions to the rule that are allowed. So those 2 I bought were for one of my book clubs in real life, one of the buddy reads I do. So they will definitely get read in 2024, so I'm not worried about those. I've also written down properly essential university books, so that means I can't get it from the library. I actually need to scribble all over it and I can't find a PDF or something like that. And this one I don't know if I should get rid of, but I have written I'm allowed to buy books as a souvenir and 1 at a time. So not what I did when I went on holiday last year and bought like 10 books on holiday, but maybe 1 book from a place if I end up going somewhere. I don't even think I'm going on holiday this year, so my next goal might just be a me problem, but that is to not rush audiobooks. I listen to a lot of audiobooks on Libby, the library app, and I am notoriously bad at having about 12 books out on Libby, and they all are due around the same time, and I end up speed listening to an audiobook in like 3 days. So I'd really like to just, if a book is going to get returned, just let it be returned. I can get it out later and just listen to it at a normal pace. I'm generally not too bad with the actual speed of the book, like I won't put it on 3 times speed or something to get through it, but I will just find excuses to just clean and do DIY and go for walks, spend my whole day listening to an audiobook. And this is part of the reason that my physical shelf gets neglected again, because I always have an audiobook that is due. But this is actually going quite well so far. I have let an audiobook get returned and it has come back to me and I'm just carrying on with it. at a normal speed. I don't need to dedicate my days to it or anything. That's the aim. And my final reading goal is to reread some books again. Last year I reread for the first time in I don't know how long, maybe a decade, and it was great. Like, they're already your favourite books and you get to experience them again, so I don't know why I don't do this more. Some potential favourites that have been calling to me lately to reread are Our Wives Under the Sea, Lord of the Rings, maybe Narnia. I haven't read that since I was a kid. So yeah, there's lots of things. I don't want to put a specific one, just make sure I reread something again this year. So yeah, those are all my intentions for the year. We will see how they go. Now, I do read mostly by whim, so I wasn't sure whether to make a TBR or not for the year, but I thought, you know, a year's a long time, there's plenty of time for the whim to strike within that. So these are 12 books from my own shelves that I think I definitely want to get to this year. Famous last words. Starting with some non-fiction, the first one is Greater Than the Sum of Our Parts, Feminism, Internationalism and Palestine by Nada Elia. And this is quite an academic looking book about the interconnectedness of settler colonialism around the world, but especially obviously looking at Palestine. And yeah, for obvious reasons, I want to read this soon and be more informed and just continue reading about Palestine and other places throughout the year. So definitely putting this one on. I only got this in December, I think. This next book I've been excited to read for so long that I think I've now become kind of intimidated by how excited I am, and have I bigged it up too much, so I think I should just actually read the thing. And that is See No Stranger, A Memoir and Manifesto of Revolutionary Love by Valerie Kaur. And I picked up this book because I read the Care Manifesto a couple of years ago, and in a review of that on Storygraph someone mentioned this book. The Care Manifesto I would recommend if you don't know much about care and the politics of care, but I wanted something a little bit deeper and more about radical compassion, which I believe this is. It says on the back it's about revolutionary love, a radical joyful practice that extends to others, our opponents and ourselves. I have a feeling it's going to be kind of the Care Manifesto / The Art of Asking, something like that. That's what I'm hoping for, and maybe have built it up too much, but I've heard great things. The next non-fiction book is called Abolition Revolution by Avia Sarah Day and Shanice Octavia McBean, and I picked this up after going to a panel event that the authors did, and they were both such great speakers. And the thing that drew me to this particularly is that it's about abolition of the prison system in the UK, which I feel like books on that are quite hard to find, and this kind of feels like a good starting place, really thorough. Everything they said was so well researched, and they were really impressive speakers, and I'd like to dive into their full book. This is Saving Time, Discovering a Life Beyond the Clock by Jenny Odell, author of How to Do Nothing, which I read a couple of years ago and loved. I bought this hardback maybe in the week it came out or the month it came out, and I still haven't read it, so I really need to get around to this one. And I don't know too much about what it's actually talking about, apart from time and productivity, maybe. My last non-fiction book is a bit of a random one, and that is Doctor Who The Writer's Tale by Russell T Davies and Benjamin Cook. And this is one of those quite chunky, maybe coffee table books almost. It's got kind of scripts and notes, and it's Russell T Davies looking back on the filming of Doctor Who. So the 4 series that were kind of my series of Christopher Eccleston, David Tennant with Rose, Martha, Donna. I think I'm kind of hyped for Russell T Davies to be back writing Doctor Who again, and I've kind of fell off after Matt Smith, really. So I'd like to reignite my love for Doctor Who this year, I think. So it has emails and texts between the writers about making different decisions and things. So I think it would just be really interesting, and I've owned this since it came out because I was bought every single Doctor Who related thing ever as a kid, so I think I've had this for 16 years or something like that. Yeah. Next I have some fiction from my shelves that I definitely want to get around to this year, and the first one is sort of cheating because it is that book that I bought in January that I'm buddy reading with my friend, and that is Babel by R.F. Kuang. I have tried to avoid spoilers for this, so all I know is it's about Oxford and translation and language, and maybe there's some kind of magic. That's all I need to know. So yeah, I'm very excited for this. The next book I really want to read is Certain Dark Things by Silvia Moreno Garcia. I have read Signal to Noise by this author, and that's it. But this is the one that's kind of called to me the most, and I bought this in Edinburgh last year. And again, this is why I don't do TBRs, because I like not knowing anything, so I can't really tell you anything. So all I know is it's Mexico City, there are vampires. That's all I need to know. Next I have a couple of horror adjacent books, which is quite unusual for me, but these are 2 I really want to read. The first one is White is for Witching by Helen Oyeyemi. This is about a house that is haunting the people living in it, which just sounds great. I read What Is Not Yours Is Not Yours, is that what it's called? By this author years ago and loved it, so I really need to get around to this. But again, I don't really read blurbs, so you'll just have to look them up. What a great booktuber I am. And the next horror is Devil House by John Daniel of the Mountain Goats. He's the main singer-songwriter, and the Mountain Goats are like my favourite band, as well as the Killers, just so you know. But again, I don't know if I've just paired these accidentally and this is also about a house that is haunting people, or in some other way kind of spooky, but haunted houses apparently on the TBR this year. I also just noticed on the back it's blurred by Kazuo Ishiguro and Carmen Maria Machado, so it's gonna be great. I love the way he uses words in songs. I'm sure I'm gonna love it in books. Next up is a historical fiction, and that is Nettle Black by Nat Reeve. And this, I think, is about a non-binary character in like the Victorian era? Yes, Victorian. And obviously I don't think they use the term non-binary, but some kind of gender thing is again all I need to know. I'm intrigued. I also love this cover, so yes. The only problem is the font is tiny, but we will get through that. At least it is floppy. The next one I really need to get around to is Mrs. Death by Selena Godden. Again, I don't really know what this is about, apart from Death is a character and is in London, maybe? But it is blurbed by so many people on the back that I'm just like, sure, yes. And I've heard so many booktubers that I trust talk about it. I love the cover. It's all going to work out. It feels like a 5-star. You know, when you just kind of know. This is the last of the 12 books I physically own that I've chosen, and that is Lodore? I'm not sure how I meant to say it, but this is by Mary Shelley. I've read Frankenstein by Mary Shelley multiple times. It's maybe my favourite classic, along with Dorian Gray, and I really should read more by her then, obviously. And the thing that really got me about this one is, well, the cover, but then besides that it does say on the back that it's the most Jane Austen-like of Mary Shelley's novels, which intrigues me. I think it's kind of a satirical romance, so yeah, we will see. So if you've been paying attention, I did say I was doing a 24 in 24 TBR, and I have just showed you 12 books. So yeah, I know myself, and I know that I will go to the library a lot, so I've also picked out 12 books that I think I would like to get from the library in this year. I'm going to cheat with this TBR slightly because I want to feel good about myself and show one I've already read. So this is Shark Heart by Emily Habeck, and this was the book I was most excited about at the start of the year, that I nearly bought and stuff. If I was still buying books, I probably would have bought it. And yeah, I have already read this and liked it, but probably not enough to own it, so thank you, library. The blurb starts with, for Lewis and Wren, their first year of marriage will be their last. And that is because Lewis is turning into a great white shark. That's what the blurb says, at least, is that it's about marriage, but I would say this is also about found family, growing up too fast, and motherhood, but I will talk about it more in my wrap up at some point. The other 11 books that I might like to get from the library this year, I'll just run through really quickly. Another shark themed one. I would love to read Julia and the Shark by Karen Millward Hargreave. This is a children's book, I think about kind of grief and a Greenland shark, maybe? And it looks gorgeous, so would love to find that. I tend to use the library a lot for graphic novels and graphic memoir, so I would love to read Run, book 1 by Andrew Aiden. This is the follow-up trilogy, I think it's going to be, to March, the series that followed the life of John Lewis, the congressman, and those graphic memoirs are amazing. I would recommend them to anyone, so I'm really looking forward to finding this one eventually. I've also wanted to read Mouse by Art Spiegelman for years and years, and I just need to find it in the library. Annoyingly, my library had part 1 but not part 2, so I need to track down the other one. And then in other non-fiction, I would love to read Who Will Pay Reparations on My Soul by Jessie McCarthy. I don't really know what this is about massively, apart from its essay collections with a great title, which is sometimes all you need. That's the kind of whim that I can commit to with library books. And lastly, for non-fiction, I'd love to read First Comes Love by Tom Rasmussen, which I believe is a queer look at the history of marriage and future of marriage, maybe. And these are just a complete spread of different fiction books that are calling to me at the moment, so maybe I will get to them in the year. The first one is Burnham Wood by Eleanor Catton, which I think is about land rights in New Zealand and Macbeth, maybe, or maybe I'm just thinking that because of the title. Making this TBR video is really exposing how little I know about books going into them, but it's the way I like it, so. Another classic that I've had my eye on is The Hopkins Manuscript by R.C. Sheriff, which is about the moon colliding with the Earth. I think it's very loosely what the film Don't Look Up was based on. To finish a trilogy, I would love to read A Power Unbound by Freya Marske, which is the last book in the Binding trilogy, I think that's what it's called, which is magical Edwardian queer romance. They're very easy reading to me, they're quite fun and fast-paced, so yeah, would like to wrap up that series. This next one I think is a straight up romance, which I don't really read without kind of magical or fantasy elements, but I trust the author completely, so that is You Made a Fool of Death with Your Beauty by Akwaeke Emezi. And I think this is about a character who has lost their husband, maybe, and then finding romance after a big loss, basically. Another contemporary book I'd like to read is Young Mungo by Douglas Stewart, and sort of cheating because I am already halfway through this, which is following a 15-year-old boy called Mungo and his sister and his brother in life in Glasgow, and Mungo, who is Protestant, finding a friendship or maybe more with a boy who is Catholic, and all that entails. And last on my list for From the Library is just James Baldwin. Anything by James Baldwin. I don't know how I haven't read anything by him, and I'm nearly 30, so I need to correct that. So yeah, that was my very loose 24 in 24 TBR. Hopefully I get to at least some of those this year, and remember to keep checking in with these goals and intentions. If you have any goals or intentions or whatever you're calling them for the year, please do let me know below or link your videos below. I would love to see them. Hope you're having a good day. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next time. Bye!